Coming up on 7:30 now on this Thursday morning, he covered some of the toughest yet most crucial stories in the Middle East. War reporter James Foley was the first American citizen to be killed by ISIS. Tonight, he will be honored by the Ohi Day Foundation for his extraordinary courage here in the nation's capital. And joining us now are Jim's parents, Diane and John Foley. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
What was it that drove Jim to be in the Middle East and in war zones and covering these stories that were so important?
Well, Jim was a very passionate and compassionate person. He was incredibly interested in their stories and had been in Syria more than a year when he was kidnapped. So he had really grown very fond of the people. They had incredibly hospitable people. And I think the more he saw the suffering there on the ground, the more he was compelled to bear witness to that. You know, so often we in the United States have no idea how other people are suffering in hopes of freedom and such. So
once he was kidnapped, it put the two of you in a position that no parent ever wants to be in. But you faced a number of hurdles, didn't you, in trying to attempt to bring him back home?
We did. We had difficulty getting specific information from our government in terms of what was known as to his whereabouts and what was trying to be done to bring him home. We were told for a year and a half that his situation was a high priority, that everything possible was being done to secure his release, but that they couldn't tell us anything because it was secure information.
How frustrating was that?
Oh, incredibly. I mean, it was very, very difficult because we trusted that something was being done, but as the months went on, as it got to be nearly 2 years, you know, we were really concerned for Jim. For a whole year, we didn't even know if he was alive. So it was a very difficult, lonely experience, and I really feel a lot of the folks in our government were trying. We're doing a lot behind the scenes, but because there's no person totally accountable for American hostages, it's kind of like we just never knew what was happening. I had no idea.
A lot of bureaucracy involved.
Tremendous.
Did you feel like you were let down?
Oh, well, sure, Steve. I mean, Jim was let down. We feel, you know, we feel our government, because of policy, did not engage at all with his captors, even when we knew very well who they were and where they were. It was a policy decision, I guess. And that concerns me because courageous journalists and humanitarian workers and such, I would hope, really should be people of value, even if they're young and, you know, less well known.
The two of you didn't just sit around and wait for the government to do things, though. You did a lot on your own, traveled a lot to try to find some answers, right?
Yes, Diane spent a considerable amount of time going to Europe, debriefing and or talking to the released hostages, so we got a fair idea of what prison life was like and what the current status was at the time of their release. So we felt at least we had some touch with Jim.
It's impossible to put anybody in the shoes that you were in, but did you still have hope up until the end that
Absolutely.
there would be an opportunity for him to come home?
Oh, yes. I mean, towards the end, we realized we had to try to do something as a family because it appeared to us that the government did not feel they were able to intervene. So we were trying frantically to raise money. We were trying to be in touch with the captors. And I think we were naive enough that even when they sent that email saying that Jim would be killed, we were just glad to hear from them and hoped that if we told them we were raising money, they would consider working with us. But that didn't seem.
I think it's important to say that we received our first emails from the captors in late January. The initial demands were...
Funny, it was November.
Yeah, the initial demands were impossible for a citizen to meet 100 million euros and release of all Muslim prisoners. We believe that these requests were directed at our government, and we were told to respond as a private family individually. The FBI did help us in terms of the message to humanize Jim, to start a dialogue, but I think this was far short of the mark that was set up by the captors.
ISIS contacted you directly, though, with these demands?
Yes, through our website.
Right. Now the effort is on to try to help others down the road, and you're being
That's our
instrumental in that. And I know that there is a website out there now, and you're trying to raise some funds, but not just the funds, but also more information should anybody else find themselves in a situation like this.
Well, exactly. Jim was passionate about many things, Steve. So, you know, we want to certainly support freedom of the press. That was huge for Jim, and underprivileged kids who need a good education. But we feel the big concern is that American captive families and American captives need to be more of a priority by our government. We would hope that we could just help with an awareness of that, establish better lines of communication.
Specifically, what we would like to establish is a direct line of communication with someone within the government who had up-to-the-minute knowledge and wouldn't have to call somebody else and never get back to us. And we really want to set up a out-of-the-box discussion, international discussion on the whole issue of negotiation and ransom payment, because currently the playing field is not level.
And tonight, the award here in the nation's capital, and Jim was nominated by former President Bill Clinton. What does this mean to you? What does this mean to the family? What do you think this would mean to Jim?
Well, Jim, go ahead.
No, I think Jimmy would be very humbled by receiving the award. You know, courage is something you don't know you have until you put it into a situation where it's required. And Jimmy's goal in life was to be a friend, and I think he was a friend to his fellow captives to the end. He was unbroken, and I think as an American he was targeted, and I think because of that he was the first.
Diane, John Foley, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Allison, I'll send it back to you.